All right, everybody, welcome back to another deep dive with me. And as always, I've got my expert here to help us wade through all the complexities of this case.
Glad to be back.
So today's topic is one that I know a lot of you have been talking about. It's kind of a wild one, to be honest. One of our listeners actually sent this article in. And, well, it's about a convicted killer who is out on bail, but also fighting deportation back to Albania. So, I don't even know where to start with this one.
It's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there are so many layers here.
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing that jumps out at me, and I think probably a lot of our listeners too, is just how can someone who's convicted of, killing another person be out on bail in the first place?
Well, you have to remember that even though someone's been convicted, the legal process doesn't just end there.
Oh, right.
There's a whole system of appeals and, legal arguments that can be made.
So even with a conviction, the case isn't necessarily closed.
Exactly. They might be appealing the conviction itself or even the deportation order. There could be all sorts of things going on.
Oh, wow. I see.
Like maybe they're saying there are technicalities in the trial or problems with the evidence. It gets complicated.
So it's there are these loopholes that someone can use even after they've been found guilty.
Yeah, kind of like that. And on top of that, you have to consider the whole idea of due process.
Due process.
Yeah, it means that everyone, regardless of what they've been accused of, has the right to a fair legal hearing.
Right.
So in this case, the person who is convicted, they get to have their arguments against deportation heard. All the evidence has to be looked at. And if they want to appeal, they have the right to do that.
Okay, that makes sense, I guess. But it's still kind of mind-blowing to think that this whole other legal battle is going on at the same time as the original case.
Yeah, it can definitely get messy.
So let's maybe zoom in on the deportation part of this.
Okay.
What makes it so tricky in this particular situation?
Well, deportation is almost never a simple thing. It's all tied up with international agreements and diplomacy and human rights and all sorts of stuff.
Wow.
For example, there might be treaties in place that say we can't deport someone to a country where they might be in danger or persecuted.
Oh, right.
And then you have to get the other country to agree to take them back, which is not always a guarantee.
So in this case, Albania has to actually say, yeah, we'll take this person back.
Exactly. And that can involve a lot of back and forth and negotiations.
It sounds like a huge headache, honestly.
It can be.
So how does being out on bail affect all of this? Does it make the deportation process even slower?
It can definitely complicate things because while the person is out on bail, all those legal battles we talked about, they're still going on.
Right.
The courts have to figure out if their claims are valid and what the risks are of sending them back to Albania and whether those risks are bigger than the risk of them being here.
I see.
And that all takes time, especially with appeals and everything.
Yours, potentially, right?
Yeah, it can drag on for a long time.
Okay, so I think we've got to address the big question that's probably on everyone's mind. And it's, the whole public safety issue.
Right.
I mean, it's understandable that people would be concerned about a convicted killer being out on bail, regardless of the deportation stuff.
Absolutely. It's a totally valid concern.
Well, how does the legal system balance that concern with this person's right to due process?
It's a tough one, to be honest. It's a balancing act that judges and the whole legal system are constantly grappling with. You have the fundamental rights of the individual, but then you have to weigh that against the safety and well-being of everyone else.
Right.
So in these kinds of cases, the courts will look at things like how serious the crime was, the likelihood that the person will offend again, and what kind of danger they pose to the public while they're out on bail.
That's a lot to take into account.
It is. There's no easy answer.
Yeah, no magic formula.
Nope.
This case is really a perfect example of how messy the law can be. It forces us to think about all these different principles that are kind of clashing with each other.
Yeah, what's more important, individual rights or keeping society safe? It's a question that doesn't have a simple answer.
It's a huge question, a really important one.
And it's something that every country has to grapple with in some way, how to balance security and freedom, how to protect individual rights, while also making sure that society as a whole is safe and functioning.
It's something we're going to be dealing with for a long time, I think.
Probably forever.
Well, this has been super insightful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a really complicated case, but I think you've done a great job of breaking it down.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
So for all of you listening out there, I hope this has given you some things to think about.
Yeah.
I mean, this case is just one example.
Yeah.
But it raises some really big questions about how our legal system works and how we deal with these kinds of situations.
Yeah.
So keep the conversation going. Think about the limits of due process and how international relations play into our own laws and where you personally draw the line between individual rights and public safety.
It's a discussion worth having.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks again for joining us for this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.
See you then.
Bye.